what the heck is POV? How do I use it? What are the different types and which is better than the other? In less than 10 minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly all of the answers to that question, but more, I'm going to delve into what you actually need to know about POV. A lot of instructors will walk you through what the different types are, but not how to use them effectively. Point of view is the lens through which your story is told, and that differs based on who the character is, where they come from, and what they think about the world. And we'll get into exactly what that means in just a second. There are a few different kinds of point of view. Number one, omniscient, which is a very old style, not super popular right now. It's literally omniscient as in an all-seeing God above the sky, looking down, knowing what everybody's thinking. You can do that, but it's not super popular because what it does is it builds distance between the all-seeing God and the character. You're not getting right deep into who this character is and what they're thinking and how they're experiencing the world and what is happening to them. Then there is first-person point of view, which is super popular lately in suspense and in young adult and lots of other genres. Your limitations there are that you've only got that character's point of view in terms of what they're seeing. But it's okay. If you really like using first person, go right ahead. Then there's second person. Very hard to pull off, very hard to make like relatable because it's all in second person, you. And a great example of that is the show You. I think it's super hard to get connected, and the you throws me off all the time when I read that. I've read a couple of books that have had some chapters written in the second person, and I don't know. I personally didn't like it, but that doesn't mean you can't pull it off. And then there's third person, which has been the most common type of point of view used because it allows you to skip between different people's perspectives. I don't care which one of those points of view you choose to work with. I don't care if you use it in first person present or third person past, which is I am versus she was, or I was versus she is. I don't care which way you do that. The most important thing you need to do is to use it to build a relationship with the reader. And that's where a lot of writers fall apart. When I work with writers, what I see a lot is what's called head hopping. That is when you're going between different points of view on the same scene or the same chapter. Now, people like Nora Roberts can get away with it because she is very skilled at that. And she's Nora Roberts, right? Like she could write her grocery list and people would buy it. But newer writers, not so much. Particularly because generally newer writers do not have the skill set to build a relationship with a reader very quickly before they switch points of view. I want you to think of point of view like a cocktail party with a bunch of strangers. You walk into a room, you start talking to Jane, and Jane's like, yeah, I just moved here from Wisconsin. I was running away from, and then the host drags you away and says, here, you got to meet Scott. So you start talking to Scott, and Scott's like, yeah, I don't like my boss because I think he's, and then the host drags you away, and here you're meeting Dan. And Dan's just droning on and on about how his car wouldn't start this morning. And you're like, but I really want to know why Jane left Wisconsin, and I really want to know what Scott's boss is doing. The problem is you haven't built a relationship with any of them, so you don't have that connection yet. And you've already moved on to somebody else that you don't care about yet. So when you do what's called head hopping and you go between different character points of view, you reduce the connection between the reader and the character. And when you reduce the connection, I say it every time, you lose the reader. When they stop caring, they close the book and they move on. There are like 20 million books out there to choose from. So why is the reader going to stick with yours if they don't have a connection with the character? And point of view is your best tool to build that connection. I have made all of the mistakes that I'm going to talk about in this video. I wrote 10 books in 8 years that were rejected a lot. But once I unlocked how point of view worked, I went on to work for most of the big 5 publishers, become a New York Times, USA Today, Wall Street Journal bestselling author, and sell 8 million copies of my books worldwide. And I'm not throwing that out there as a way to brag. I'm saying that once I figured it out, that's what made my books really sing and connect with readers. And that is what you want. You want to build a career at this, right? You want lots and lots of readers to go through your amazing story and connect with it. Point of view is your pipeline to the reader's heart to make them connect. So how do you create that connection? Because it's really hard, and it should be, because if it was easy, everybody would do it. You start with finding that commonality, the things that your reader can relate to, that your character has been through. You don't have to have experienced any of those specific events, but you have to have experienced the emotions so that you can put them on the page effectively. Now, There are people that will argue, absolutely not. You don't have to have experienced the emotions to put it on the page effectively. But I don't buy into that. I think the key to a book that really has longevity and really gets the readers in the feels is one where the writer knows exactly what this character is going through and can effectively get that across on the page. Maybe you're writing about a woman in the 16th century that is on the run from an executioner. Chances are pretty good you did not grow up in the 16th century, and chances are pretty good that if you're watching this channel, you've never been on the run from an executioner. That's not the part that I want you to be able to relate to. It's the emotions. The emotions of somebody in the 16th century on the run from an execution are probably fear and a loneliness and an abandonment. Maybe they don't have anybody to turn to. Maybe they're bewildered by what is going on. We've all been in moments where we're like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to survive this. You've had that moment of fear when your car started to spin out of control on an icy road. We've all had these moments where we have experienced the emotions that that character is going through. You're basically putting yourself in your character's shoes so that you can then express that through the character's eyes, through their point of view, through what they see, what they notice, what they care about. That's what their point of view is. So somebody that's on the run, for instance, is not going to notice the beautiful flowers on the roadside. They don't have time. Like somebody's trying to kill them. So they're going to notice the dark little shadows where they can hide, or how the woods have a path to a house where somebody's living and they can maybe hide in that house. Think about what the character is feeling right now, what is important to them, and what they would naturally notice and care about. That's what you want to get across. Now, if you're struggling with that, I highly recommend reading some books on psychology. If you know that your character is, for instance, a youngest child, read some books about how childhood birth order affects them. If your character is somebody that's dealing with chronic anxiety, read some books on how chronic anxiety affects the way that we see the world and the way that we react to things. That there are a million psychological resources that you can use that can help you create that character. There's a short on my channel where I get into my own personal history of being SA'd when I was young and how I'm going to put that into a book because I've done that. I have never had a character look at the world through the lens of somebody that has gone through that kind of a trauma. And I've been listening to Mark Manson's Everything is Effed, a book about hope. And in that, he talks about how people with trauma in their past react to what is going on and how they see the world. And that's what made the connection for me. I took a bunch of notes and I was like, oh, I can use this with my character because I can relate to it as a human. My character is nothing like me, is in a different job, has a different goal. It's a suspense novel. There's going to be a murder. None of that has happened in my real life. Thankfully, knock on wood, nobody's been murdered in my real life. But being able to relate to the emotions of it creates that point of view. It's also how you make your characters stand out from one another. One of the questions I got on the channel recently was, how do I make my dialogue differ for each of my characters? Well, every one of your characters has a different upbringing, a different age, a different demographic, a different gender, a different job. All of those things affect how people speak. It also is impacted by their emotional state. Like people that are shyer are more withdrawn. They don't use a ton of words. They don't ramble on for 10 minutes. People who are in a job that is very specific tend to use very specific language. Lawyers, for instance, are very specific in how they speak about things. Accountants are very specific in how they speak about the city. Age is going to make a big difference. The slang that a 20-year-old uses is not the same as the slang that a 55-year-old uses or an 80. You got to look at all of these different things and think about, how is my character going to see the world and interpret the world? What kind of history is going to be in their head? What did their grandma say to them when they were a kid? What did their mom say to them when they were a kid? What are these different things that have shaped and colored their viewpoint of the point? You're taking their entire history and you're looking at how that is shaping their viewpoint of the world, because that is their POV. When you're developing your character, I want you to ask as much as you possibly can, what was the impact on my character? And then think about, how will that change the way they see the world? That is a super key ingredient in creating a point of view that really lasts. Now, if you want more on doing specific character points of view, like female characters, I highly suggest checking out this video here. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and like and share, because sharing is caring and lots of other writers could use. And if you have a question about how to use point of view effectively, drop it down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.